All right, so now we have with us Tanvi and Daniel. So these are data engineers, and they will be taking you through the about 30 to 40-minute web scraping workshop. So like we said, it's going to be a pretty high return on investment because it'll get you some pretty cool skills, which you then use not only for this final project, but also in future courses. So round of applause for these guys.
Thank you.
Okay. First, what is web scraping? So what web scraping is just downloading and extracting information from a site. You can do this by like retrieving all the HTML code from a site and then kind of just parsing through that to figure out what information you actually need. Why do we actually need to do this? Well, web scraping is generally a lot better than like using Kaggle in some places. I assume most of you have worked with data sets in like some regard, or you probably will. And in most cases, you kind of just end up using like Kaggle to get a pre-made data set. And the issue with that is that for one, it's not up to date, and second, it doesn't always have what you need. And that's where web scraping comes in, because you can find like any site with any data from like any time period and just scrape the data you need to find it. And these are like some use cases of what you can do with it. I know for Info 1998, you have like a final project, and it could be helpful to like web scrape your data instead.
Okay, so um, there you probably have heard some frameworks to do some web scraping, and here we're gonna mainly do in Python, and there are two important libraries that we're gonna teach you. The first one called requests. This is for making HTTP requests. And second one is called Beautiful Soup 4. 4 is basically the version of it. So it pulls the data out of the HTML and XML files from the internet and gets what you need. And to install those libraries, you just do pip install request and pip install Beautiful Soup 4 and get that library. So yeah, we're gonna teach you about why we use those libraries, so help you to develop an intuition behind it. So, what is internet? The internet is a massive distributed client-server information system with many running applications. So how do they talk to each other if there are like a lot of nodes around the world? We use a protocol called HTTP, which is a foundational data communication for the web. So to put that into a nutshell, HTTP is used to structure the exchange of resources over the web. And there are definitely like more details behind this, but you can just simplify it for mainly two parts. The first part, request. Second part, response. So what a request? So client can perform an action on the resource by sending an HTTP request. So the important part here is, first of all, perform an action on the resource. So the resource will be on our server anywhere by sending an HTTP request. And the response is what the server will get back to us. So it will get back to us in the form of HTTP response. So this is a beautiful little diagram that illustrates this process. Yeah, so to automate this process, right, to make request and receive response, we have a very important Python library called requests that can allow you to send HTTP requests. And it's extremely easy for you. So what you can do is after importing requests in Python, you just do request.get and put your URL. And yeah, you can experiment. You can play with this later during the demo. Tommy will lead you. So yeah, so that's essentially how you do it. Pretty simple, pretty elegant. And if you want to feed some parameters into the URL, and you can also do that by passing the params parameter, and you can pass in a dictionary, so it will be automatically parsed and sent to that URL. And this is a GET request. GET is a type of HTTP request. And another HTTP request that we're going to talk about is called POST. So POST, what you can do is just request.post the URL and the data. So you probably wonder what's the difference between GET and POST. So essentially, GET is when you want to read something, when you want to just read the data from the web, you don't have the intention to change it on their server. You just want to get something. So that's when you use GET. The POST is when you want to actually change something on their server. So yeah, and when making POST request, we not only need the URL, we also need a POST request. We call it a request body. So this request body is represented by the data parameter here, and you also passing a dictionary. Yeah, and also there are more examples of HTTP request. There might be there are put, delete, head, and options. So those are not covered here, but just let you know that there are more. And yeah, so after you make HTTP requests using Python's request library, you can get response, right? So you have stored the response essentially in R, in the variable R. And what you can do with it is, first of all, you can use it to check, what's the status code that you received by making that request, right? You want to see if the request is successful. And the easiest way to do that is by looking at the status code. The status code, if it's 200 or 201, it usually means it's successful. Well, any code like starts with 2, but usually there's only 200 and 201. Yeah, if it's something like 300, 500, 400, it's not good. And if you want to get the URL that you just used to make the request, you can just do r.url to get that. And we're gonna see why this is useful later during the demo. And most importantly, if you want to see what you retrieved by making this request, you can use r.text. That will just return you raw text of the response from the web, which here is a HTML code. So that probably means the request you made return to HTML page, but here it's just plain code. It's not rendered yet. Yeah, so what's HTML, right? So we see here it's HTML code. So what's HTML in a nutshell? So it's a language that specifies the web page structure. It contains text like the P thing here, attributes like class equals nice. This is an attribute that can be used to identify relevant information while web scraping. So this will kind of look like the thing you will get by making a request. So you see there are like tags like tag HTML, tag header, title, both things. So but if we want to get some content from it, we need to have a way to figure out how do we get it. And we'll see that that's when the library called Beautiful Soup comes in, because it can actually parse those contents and get what you need. Okay, so you see HTML had they can really divide up and see. Oh, yeah, and get what you need. Yeah. Searching for text. How do you find the information? How do we do, like, if we want to find, for example, like the heading content, find this. How do we do it? Is we just find the first tag. Use some functions called find underscore all to like just retrieve specific things. There are more to it. Tommy will talk about it. We can do search by type, search by tag type, or search by ID. we can also use a run a filter algorithm on it. We can also search the nested structure of it. It's pretty elegant. Um, yeah. So this is examples are using those methods. Tommy will dive into details later. Um, yeah. So after we covered about beautiful soup, those things. Usually, how do we when we just go to our browser, type into google.com, and this is the browser will automatically render the web page for us. But what if we want the code? What if we want the HTML code behind it? You can just do this simple command. You can do inspecting. I guess probably all of you guys know how to do this, but just in case, no, on Windows, you can do Control plus Shift plus C. On Mac, it's Command plus Shift plus C. Yeah, and or you can just do right click on your screen and then find the inspect section. Um, so yeah, right now we're gonna dive into the most important part and the most interactive demo.
Okay. So to like kind of put those skills to use, we're gonna be scraping from a site called Books to Scrape. There's lots of sites that are like made specifically to like learn how to scrape, but when you're like making a data set, you probably wouldn't use a site like this. But for the sake of kind of making it a little easier, this is what we're using. And this is what the site kind of looks like. It's just a bunch of books and then like their prices in pounds. And we want to build a data set that has all of the books and all their attached prices. So how do we do this? Well, in the folder that you may not have access to, somewhere else, you should see a demo, maybe.
Demo at the end of the blink demo after this so that they can follow.
Okay, we're gonna give you this demo at the end, so you should just pay attention right now. Okay. So the way that we go about doing this is that in a Google Colab or a Jupyter Notebook, anything you want, we want to import the necessary necessary libraries. So, okay. So what Daniel talked about, like requests and Beautiful Soup. Requests allow us to like download the HTML from the web page, and then Beautiful Soup allows us to actually parse through it. So we need to install those, and then Pandas. I'm not sure if you guys have used that, but I'm sure you probably have in your assignments. That's just to create like a nice data frame at the end that can like put it all together. Okay. So this is the page that we're scraping from, and we can do the like response and get the like requests package and just put the base URL in, and then now inside response we kind of have like all the HTML code inside of this like books to scrape website. And this is kind of like what that looks like. We're pretty much getting all of like that HTML code. Um, and I'm sure you all have done this, but like if you guys just hit like inspect element on a site, you can see it. So here I like covered over that book thing and I clicked inspect element and then I got this and it doesn't like look neat at all. So like web scraping isn't necessarily like the most enjoyable because of how messy it is, but it's like still important. And we can see that like there's an outer article and then like an H3 tag and an A tag that's kind of covering the title of the book. So if we put that into a more like clean and readable format, this is kind of what it looks like. And this is a lot nicer to read, but you can see here again that there's like an article, an H3 tag, an A tag that leads to this. So in order to kind of like parse through this, we're gonna need to like first get all of the like product prods, and then inside that, go inside the H3 tag and the A tag. And that's how we're going to be able to extract the book title from this. So how that looks like in code, well, um, to first like get the product prod thing, we can do soup.select. which is like similar to soup.findAll that Daniel did. It's actually like the same thing. They just have multiple functions for it. But that kind of just gets like all of the books, like all of the outer wrapping of the books. So inside that, we now have like filtered it like one step of the way. And then to continue on, if we want to just get the books, there's like a couple of different ways that we can do this. If you'll notice in the HTML code, there's like two different places that the title's in. We can either get it from like right here, inside the A tag, or the actual text of the link itself. And because of that, there's like multiple ways that we can parse it with Beautiful Soup. One way, oh, one way is doing like book.h3.a, and that kind of just enters like since we're already in article because we already like did the product prod thing, we can just enter h3, then enter a, and then get the title, which is the book title. So that's one way to get it. And then another way to get it is by using find, which is one of the functions that Daniel talked about before. And find just pretty much allows you to like find the first element that you see. And so we can find H3 and then find A and then get the text, which is the text written here. So there's like no one standard way to parse HTML code. You kind of just have to like look at it and then see where it is, like where is the text that you want, and like what are some of the like outer tags that it's covered by. And then to get the price, it's a very similar process. We can do book.select and do the price color. This is like a shorthand version. We can also just do like book.select p class equals price color, so you can like specify this whole thing. And then also like again get the text here. And then wait, if you go back, if you see that like on the notebook we have like printed the price and printed the names. So this is the output of all that. So we kind of have the like book titles and the prices separately, and we can then like concatenate that together. Oh yeah, one thing we'll also notice. Let me get to the stop scrape. Oh yeah, can you go to the books to scrape site? Yeah, so if you scroll down, there's like multiple pages. So if you hit next, it like changes the base URL because there's like 50 pages. And right now we've only scraped one of those pages. So to like put it all together, we can also like change the base URL that our like response gets. So if you go back to the slide. Next. Yeah. Yeah. So this is like putting it all together. We have like this code already, which is like what we just like what we just went over, and that is like getting the title and then getting the price. But the way that we can like go over all like 50 pages is through a loop and just kind of like updating the URL based off how it changes. And for each page of that site, it like looks the same but has a different number, so we can like do that accordingly. And then through this, we end up just getting like a nice data frame that has all the books in it. Oh, wait, yes. Once you once you have like a list of everything, you can put it in a data frame through pandas, which is what the like PD is. And then once you put it in a data frame, if you want to like transfer it to CSV file, because say you want to like run a model on it or something, or you want to do something cooler with the data, the way you do that is very simple. It's just data.toCSV, another pandas library function. And now you have a nice data set with all the titles and all the prices. Um, I'll go over this. This is like an extra treat. How do we also get availability? Wow. If we look at the, what's it called? Inspect element thing, the HTML code, we can see that there's also a place for in-stock availability. So we can get it through like either of these two ways. And if you'll see on the like workshop IPYNB file that Shri will send it out to you after the workshop, there's also going to be like that included in the data. So you can like go through that and see how we can get like 3 different types of data from the site. Okay, and then here's some fun stuff to be like really ethical. So there's like a limit you can do with web scraping because every time you like make a request, you're like making a call